It's our pleasure to introduce our last solo speaker of Quality Forge 2025 before we move on to our panelist section. This speaker will put the spotlight on the buzzword of the last year, well, actually 2 years, and a topic all businesses will keep talking about heading into 2026. So, on that, I would like to introduce David Ellison. David is the Chief Data Scientist and Director of AI Engineering at none other than Lenovo. He is eagerly involved in the research, innovation, and democratization of AI, spearheaded through Lenovo's US and European AI Discovery Centers. Before Lenovo, David had a rich history running an international scientific analysis and equipment company, working as a data scientist for the US Postal Service, and holding a PhD in biomedical engineering. With numerous publications in top-tier journals and two proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. David has taken some time out his very busy schedule to join us today at Quality Forge to talk about the state of AI for 2025.
Hello there,
Hello,
David.
David.
Hello, I'm happy to be here and happy to cover this topic.
We're
So
very happy to have you here
Yeah,
today, David.
thank you for joining us. You are clearly an expert. From the intro that we know, you know exactly what you're talking about. So without further ado, the floor is yours.
yes, with the caveat, as much as anyone can know about AI, as fast as it's changing, it's a wild ride in this space. So yes, we are talking about the state of AI in 2025. So I'd like to thank everyone for their time. Today, we're not just here to discuss artificial intelligence, but also future trends and where people are moving. I think we're in the midst of a fundamental platform shift, a change in as significant as internet or mobile. Our focus will be on navigating the shift and understanding the immense opportunities it creates for us in this space. We have the AI landscape in 2025. The Gen AI divide, which I will discuss, which is, unprecedented investment with low business transformation. This seems to be common in technology. Yes, was there a question? Okay. Um, oh, an 8 billion capex surge, a historic hardware opportunity is now unfolding. Foundational model leadership is not and settled. Foundational models are in flux, are moving from OpenAI to Claude to other competitors. It's all across the map. There's an adoption gap. There's the easy to deploy horizontal tools that are scaling, and the high impact vertical applications have seen a little bit slower adoption. And then, of course, the next wave of technologies with agentic AI and on-device AI are, kind of the keys to the next phase unlocking. Um, so, we must kind of define what's happening. AI is not just a technology shift like we did with cloud computing. Cloud computing changed the back end, but it didn't fundamentally change how we interacted with with the systems. It just made them easier. I mean, it was a significant change, but it wasn't the uh, you know it isn't the technology shift the platform shift that we're looking at now. The technology shift changes how things are built on the back end, but a platform shift redefines the entire ecosystem, creating new applications, new business models, and new centers of value. This distinction is important. Um, you know, this makes the strategic goals and the impact greater to be seen. And is this going to be even more of a shift than we've seen before? I was talking to the chief scientist for OpenAI, is Jacob Pahotsi, and he believes that AI is going to lead to Jevons paradox. If you're unfamiliar with Jevons paradox, it's back from coal mining days. And when they started making more fuel efficient coal, they thought that coal would drop. And it did in the short term. It did drop in the short term because you needed less coal to power your steam engines. But it ended up rising over time because as the technology became cheaper to use, more railroads were built, more routes were created, more uses were created for coal. Same thing we see with energy efficient cars. They burn less gas. You would think that would reduce gas usage, but as people burn less gas and it becomes cheaper to travel, people travel more, commute longer to work, choose to commute longer to work, and um, all these things. It made the overall oil consumption actually rise. On the other hand, so that's a very optimistic outlook for how AI is going to be defining our future. On the other hand, I will point out that he's also reading the book "If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies," which is a bit less optimistic, if I were to take a guess. So we talk about disruption. Everybody in business likes to talk about disruption, but it's not a monolithic concept. It's critical to understand what type of disruption is going to be bringing to the specific market. And so we're going to consider the difference between Uber and Airbnb. Uber used software to directly substitute the taxi market. It was a substitution model. This is things in AI, such as professional services, media, customer support. It is a direct substitution for the user model. Um, in contrast, a new market was created, an Airbnb, a new market was created alongside. It's the augmentation model. So now people have the choice of hotel or Airbnb, but they don't substitute each other. Um, and I mean, only partially at least. And so, areas that AI is impacting is manufacturing, logistics, supply chain optimization. A lot of what we do here at Lenovo is being disrupted in this augmentation model. So, you need to think of how, depending on the industry, depending on the situation, how AI will be disrupting your market. Here's the AI paradox. There's like 2 billion people awareness and trial of the, um, two-thirds of the global, it says maybe even more than that, lots of the global population has tried a tool like ChatGPT. Most use it only once every few weeks or used it a little bit and then never touched it again. So with nearly 2 billion users, it generated only about 12 billion of market, indicating a premium conversion rate of just about 3%. So is this a temporary like time problem, or is this a fundamental problem to the technology? I do, some people, AI is being used in so many different ways, but some people are just using it on the surface level way. And Benedict Evans, who is a well-known commenter on and analyst in the AI space, says it's like using the most advanced Swiss Army knife, and everybody's using it as a letter opener. So old school technologies, old school habits, using this massive power in the most fundamental, easiest way possible. Other monetization gaps. So this is consistent. This Gen AI divide is consistent with other areas that we see free to paid conversions. Um, like e-commerce, only about 1 to 3% of the visitors actually purchase. Cart to checkout conversion is about 20 to 30%. So once they get into the cart or checkout, they have a much higher chance of actually moving forward. Mobile apps, is about 2 to 10%, up to 10%. So that's a lot better usage. Freemium sales sees about 5 to 10%. So you see that Gen AI is relatively low down with the e-commerce versus the other applications out there, at least for right now. So we are seeing this paradox, this Gen AI divide, this huge gap between high rates of experimentation and low rates of actual business transformation. A recent MIT report just talked about like 95% of custom enterprise tools never make it out of the pilot phase into production. 7 out of 9 major industries show no structural change from AI. The two that do see changes are tech and media. Those are the ones being changed. Everything else is just seeing more of that augmentation model that we talked about earlier. Things that improve little efficiencies but don't actually substitute or make vast changes. Um, so for both customers and enterprises, there's a failure of integration. These standalone AI tools require changes in user behavior, creating friction. Anytime you're trying to do change management within an organization, a lot of times or most of the time, the hardest part about AI and hardest part about technology is getting people to use it, not the actual technology itself. So this is where we move, user involvement versus AI visibility. Um, we're moving from this, a destination where you go to use AI to embedded AI. This is a core value proposition on so many products that AI will disappear into the user's natural workflow. When you use your smartphone, you don't say, "Oh man, I'm so glad that AI corrected my image," or it gave me predictive typing, or the battery optimization that happens in your smartphone. You don't say that. It just happens, and you don't care that it's AI or some sort of generic algorithm. You just do it. Email. You don't go, "Oh, thank goodness the AI saved me from spam." You just assume that the email is going to sort out spam or do a smart compose nowadays. E-commerce recommendations, streaming platform recommendations. All of these things are powered by AI, but they're embedded so deeply that you don't even think about it being AI anymore. And that's when AI becomes, inherently more powerful, is the true business transformation. It moves from simply providing information to automating entire processes. This is where embedded agentic AI is really going to transform things because it is taking a task and not just doing something for you, doing something like a task for you that you've well defined. It just makes things happen. And if it's embedded and agentic AI, it's going to be incredibly powerful. So we're moving from those high touch AI use cases to the ones where you're just like, "Oh, am I using AI? I don't even know." So this is, the cost of AI adoption is measurable. The cost of not adopting AI is harder to see, but far greater. Um, I've heard this said a different way. You know, the cost of adopting AI is a lot, but it doesn't compare to the cost of being left behind. That's kind of where we're at with this. So if we look at enterprise spending on foundational model APIs, it was only $500 million in 2023 when things started out. It jumped all the way to 3.5 billion in 2024. And already midway through 2025, when we have our last numbers, it already jumped to 8.4 billion. So now that we're nearing the end of the year, you see that number is probably up at more at the 16 billion amount. So yeah, incredible growth in this space. Here's the great CapEx splurge, about a billion, 400 billion bet on the future of computing. These are the CapEx for some of our major companies. This is dramatic scaling from the 2024 to 2025 projections. Amazon is the relatively modest one of 17 billion, but you got 20 billion in Microsoft, you got 25 billion in Alphabet, and Meta, you've got up to another 25 billion. So, these are huge jumps in cap expense and expenditure. So how is the tech battleground shaken out? This tech is being deployed in conflicting and overlapping AI strategies. Microsoft is using AI to define its enterprise empire. So it's, expanding to things like Copilot and, trying to make more lock-in to their Microsoft products. Google aims to win through pure technology superiority. They're hoping Gemini outcompetes all the other models, and they perform the best research to perform the best foundational model. Amazon's focusing on dominating the cloud layer. Um, with Bedrock and other technologies, they're open to how do you use these large language models in the cloud. Some of the most important strategies for the hardware ecosystem are those of Meta and Apple. Meta's open source strategy is really powerful for the Llama models. It's a disruptive play to commoditize the foundational layer of AI, to commoditize it, to make it like, oh, the AI is just a given. Um, and this is a powerful tailwind for the open ecosystem, where Lenovo and other companies like us operate. Conversely, Apple's pursuing a more of a closed on-device strategy to tightly couple AI capabilities to its hardware and positioning privacy as a key differentiator. So these are a bunch of opposing sources and opposing strategies. So how is that shaping out in the market? This strategic movement is having a real impact on the foundational models themselves. With the early dominance of OpenAI that had over 50% of the entire market down to, last year, down to mid-market 2025, um, we have Claude now leading with 32% of the market. OpenAI's share has been cut in half. So I guess they're about 60% before. Um, and while Google has secured a strong third position, there's pretty equal. I mean, there's certainly a ranking, but you have Anthropic leading, OpenAI, and then Google Gemini, followed, not so closely by the Meta Llama, ecosystem. Um, the shift reflects from maturing market enterprises that now prioritizes control, customization, and compliance over raw capability. Anthropic's focus on model reliability, safety tools, enterprise integration, they've really resonated with those corporate buyers. But as model fragmentation accelerates, enterprises are demanding infrastructure that can host multiple models without vendor lock-in. And that tends to favor our hardware providers, like Lenovo and other people in that space. So a strategic choice leads to another critical decision: is open source versus proprietary. Proprietary is by far leading the space. Um, and this comes with significant trade-offs. You get when in control and data security. Open source models provide a solution to these issues, but their technical complexity is much harder. Um, so Closely look to the model choice as deployment strategy. This is where to run the AI workloads. Of course, if you're on cloud, you have OpEx is high at scale. On-prem CapEx is where it's at. And latency is high in the cloud, relatively low on-premise, and lowest on device. Um, so you have all these different advantages to whether you're running on the cloud, on-premise, and on edge and on device. And I think we're going to see a lot more things going on edge and on device because of the privacy controls and security controls. The problem is can it run the best models? And obviously it's limited in what it can run. It's hardware imperative. Obviously, Lenovo cares about this, and Nvidia cares about this, and the market projections reach $150 billion in 2025. You have data center transformation and the rise of the AI PC. Your PC is going to have NPUs in it. More and more frequently is going to have neural processing units, is what those are. And these are things that run AI just natively in your system. First killer application in generative AI has been code generation. And why has it worked? You have an expert user, software users can quickly and easily verify, well, maybe not easily, it takes a little time, but to verify AI's output. It mitigates risk because there's an expert in the loop in the process, solves one of the primary risk of AI hallucinations, and then there's a clear ROI in productivity measurements and savings. The key to this is that human in the loop is essential. It enhances accuracy, it mitigates bias, it ensures accountability and compliance, and it builds user trust. So that is really key to building in your AI applications, this human-machine interface. Looking at these trends, we see inflection points that define the market for years to come. First, the migration of AI workloads to the edge, which is the single most important structural shift. It's driven by undeniable needs for better performance, privacy, and cost control. Second is data centers completely reinvented around power density, technologies like liquid and cooling as central infrastructure. And finally, as AI models become more complex, progress longer, simply coming from adding more GPUs. We need to, the future hinges on creating more energy efficient, more efficient models that can, define the future. So based on this analysis, we propose 5 actionable recommendations for Lenovo, and then I have a couple for just the general audience. First is a champion open on-prem ecosystem. It's a huge market for enterprises that want the security of private AI, but it's deterred by its complexity. Second is, to lead the AI transition, focusing on real-world user experience. Third is to double down on next generation data centers. This includes liquid cooling and high density design. Fourth is to develop a cohesive edge to cloud story that reflects the hybrid reality of enterprise AI, moving from edge to cloud to, data center, all the things. And then finally, embracing the human in the loop model as a design principle, as we talked about it being very effective in coding and other applications. So this is how Lenovo is adapting, but how can you adapt? You can champion openness and interoperability, build ecosystems that integrate, don't isolate. It's hard to win in the vendor lock-in space. It's much easier to win in the integrated. Of course, once you create a moat, it's easier to defend, but it's easier to get into the market if you're not isolated, if you integrate. Design for real outcomes, measure success by user experience and business value, not tech specs, not how much accuracy did this model produce. That's great and all for a data scientist to look at, but the business people don't care about that. You modernize AI for scale, re-architect your infrastructure for compute design efficiency and sustainability, whether you're doing it on the cloud or whether you're doing it on-prem. Unify your edge and cloud, connect the distributed intelligence into one adaptive system. So your edge and cloud strategy need to be have the same strategy. And then, of course, keep humans in the loop. We need humans in the loop to control for hallucinations and to build user trust. So with that, I'd like to end the presentation and thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the time to present to you, and I hope this, gave you some insights into where the state of AI in 2025. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, David, very much for informative and yet very down-to-earth presentation. I think the audience especially appreciated your strategic recommendations. I mean, not every day you can get a piece of advice from such a knowledgeable and experienced person. So thank you, David. And yes, we do have a couple of questions to you, and I'll start with the following. Has been a lot of investment and work globally by companies attempting to integrate AI, but what does successful AI implementation actually mean? What are some core KPIs business should look out for?
I did allude to this in the in the discussion, but only briefly. So successful AI implementation isn't about like model accuracy and lift and all these other actions. It is about ROI. And is it impacting the cost savings or revenue generation of the company? You've used AI. AI has succeeded when it's invisible to the users, but it's indispensable to the business. From a KPI standpoint, I kind of look at three different categories. You have operational efficiency, time to insight, automation rate, process cycle reduction. These are things that are cost savings. There's financial ROI, cost avoided, revenue uplift, margin improvement directly. We focus a lot on this KPI at Lenovo. And then you have adoption and trust, user and engagement, model explainability. These things are really good. They're kind of softer metrics, but how is AI embedded into the workflows? So those are all the types of areas, but essentially what we're doing is we're looking at where can we have cost savings, where can we generate revenue.
No, that's a very good answer. I like how you broke it down and sort of highlighted in a way the KPIs you have are very use case specific. You need to know where you are making those savings and where you are making those optimizations. And no one business is going to be a cookie cutter same thing. What was one massive saving for another business might not have the same impact on a vaster, more international scale. Which does lead into a second question. As you mentioned, there's been a lot of investment in AI, but there have been fears of an AI bubble forming or an AI winter. So, what is your take on this?
So I think there is definitely exuberance in the space. There's definitely a bubble. The question is, how much foundational value is there behind that bubble? So when it pops, how far is it going to drop? I don't think, as you talked about in that question, that we're going to hit an AI winter. AI winters happen when people totally give up on the AI and it's not delivering any value and nobody sees any future delivering value. I think we've undeniably proved that AI has value and can have value. So I don't think this bubble's going to pop and we're going to go to zero. I just do not see that happening. But I could see the bubble popping and us going to 70% of what we're doing or 60%, which is still going to be a dramatic hit on the stock market. And on business value. And job creation and all that. So there is going to be a bubble pop, but we're not going back to zero. We're not going to an AI winter. There will be a correction in valuation, but not in the value that AI delivers. And that's why it's important to not just, we don't take projects at Lenovo that are just like, hey, can you implement agentic AI for us because we want agentic AI? If it doesn't have clear ROI statements to it or clear value that it's going to be generating, we don't do it. And you shouldn't either. You should look at AI so that when the exuberance ends, when the bubble pops, you're left with the people that are the AI that's generating value, not the AI that's just generating hype.
That is a fantastic answer. It does clear up a lot because there is a lot of people, there's a lot of fear mongering. It's good to know that I agree AI is here to stay. And if there is a bubble, it's not just going to go to nothing. It will just be a value correction. We'll see a slight change in how things are done, but AI is here to stay. There is a bubble, but it's not going to be a complete like disillusion of everything. So thank you. That was a fantastic answer.
Right.
Next question.
Yes, we do have time for one more question. There is a word which is flying around a lot, which is democratizing AI. What does this mean to you? We have seen cases such as NVIDIA's new DGX computer. That's a big advancement for AI researchers and developers. And on the other side, companies that allow for vibe coding, lowering the barriers of entry of development to near zero. What is your take on that?
So I'm really excited about democratizing AI because as we talk about building user trust and human in the loop, having the people actually using the AI that are actually performing the applications and not data science, and that's what democratizing AI means. It's removing the friction between intent and intelligence. It's about enabling more people, not just data scientists, to create, adapt, and benefit from AI. We have these tools that the people that are actually performing the work will be able to derive value. And you mentioned about the DGX system. That's one system that is really powerful. It can sit on your desk and really deliver some of that compute for an average researcher, from an average person. And then, of course, we talked about the low code, and we talked about in the presentation about the importance of vibe coding, and how it's influencing things, and the human in the loop aspect of that. So true democratization happens when both ends converge, when the high performance infrastructure and human creativity, meet in the middle. And so, that's when AI moves out of the status of elite and moves into the status of everyday use. And that, again, because that is happening, I don't see us in that bubble that's going to pop and go to zero.
Fantastic answer. That is all the time we have with you for the moment. You will be joining us again later, so do stay tuned. You will be seeing more of David. But for now, thank you for joining us. You have time to grab yourself a quick coffee, and we will be seeing you later on one of our panels talking more about AI. But for now, thank you very much.
Thank you, David. See
Okay,
you
thank
soon.
you.
Thank you.